Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a work in progress video, and I'm going to show you how I fill up a hollow printed 3D print. Now, some 3D resins you cannot do this because your resin actually gets super hot because it's a chemical reaction, and it can actually warp your print. Certain resins 3D I found that you can do this and others you can't. A good way to test your item is to test like with a blow dryer on your 3D print and see if it starts to soften and warp on you. Now this right here is a Supergirl kit, a Linda Danvers. This is something I found off of CG Trader, and I contacted Icy Statues, which is Iceman. He pops into my live stream chats and stuff. I've known him for a little bit now. I contacted him and I told him that there's a 3D print I want, but this is actually only made to print like really small. And when you try to blow it up, you lose a lot of detail. So he was kind enough to take the file and sort of like tweak it a bit and just detail it up. And I had my friend John in Canada, who has a 3D printer, print it out for me. Now, John, he prints it in Frozen 4K Aqua, and that's why you see this color. I found that the Frozen 4K resin, if you print it thick enough, which he pretty much does, I'm not really sure how thick, but you can tell it's pretty thick, like almost the thickness of like a car windshield, I would say. That's pretty much how thick this is. I dremeled out a lot of this stuff just so you can kind of see like what it looks like inside. There was a little bit of supports. I took those out, and I find that this stuff is really great for filling in with Smooth-On's Smooth Cast 300. Now, a good way to test, like I said, is you can use a blow dryer, and if you hit this area with a blow dryer and this actually starts to sag and bend down, then it's a no-go. That resin will not work with this Smooth-On because it gets super hot. But I left this actually in the sun because it was a little tacky. What happens is he sends it from Canada, and with the bubble wrap and the heat over the past couple weeks, it gets really sweaty in there. So what I did is I left this in the sun. I actually forgot about it. It was a 90-degree weather day because I don't have a UV, a UV light to kind of get in there and cure it a little bit more. I just like to double check. I always like to make sure my resins are cured before I do anything, especially with 3D prints. And I forgot about it for like a half hour, 45 minutes. I went outside to grab it, and literally nothing sagged, nothing warped, and I couldn't even bend anything. So Frozen 4K is probably the only 3D resin I probably will work on from now on. So if like somebody contacts me and say, hey, I want to print out something and I want to send it to you, I would suggest that, okay, I'm only going to work on Frozen 4K or 8K because I feel that that resin's the best durability for the long run too. If you watched my past video on the Cyclops X-Men statue that I worked on, it was a 3D print. The resin was very poor. It warped too easily, and then when I put stuff inside of it, it soaked up the moisture from the putty, and it warped. So I honestly, I figure if you guys are going to be doing 3D printing and you want it to last, invest in 4K Frozen. I can't, stress enough. Maybe other resins out there are good. I haven't gotten through them all yet, but so far my experience is the way to go. I always feel that you get what you pay for. If you want to save a couple bucks and get cheaper resin, you're going to run into more issues. Just spend the extra couple bucks, get the better resin, and you're there to go. So, as you can see, there's just a couple parts to the body and everything. She's all hollow, all hollow up in here and everything. She did come with a base, but I decided I'm going to make my own base. This is kind of like a filler item. I always kind of do my own filler items, and I always kind of try to find projects that I can show off on the YouTube channel. So this is kind of one of those items. Now, for this type of item, I want to fill it in with the Smooth Cast 300, and it's going to make it a little bit heavy. And even though this is pretty good durable resin, I like to make sure things are rotted up in there anyway. I don't like to take chances on stuff. I always like to make sure everything is rotted in their support and it's going to last a long run. Because even though you could put this together and it'll be hollow, you never know down the line. It could still warp, it could break, whatever. So I want to make her solid. So right here is a key stock. This is kind of a square rod. You can get these at like hardware stores. When I say key stock is basically the stuff that you have in your door handles. It's a square rod that is in the door handle, and when you hit those knobs, it helps turn. But these are 12-inch bars, so if you can't find them at a hardware store, you can order them online. So what I did was I bent this rod that could go in her leg. Now, even though it's bent, this rod is going to support. I mean, I really had to bend this, and I had to knock it with a hammer in my vice grip. So the idea is this is going to go into her leg here. We're going to have a peg down here like so. I have to line it up. And then what's going to happen is once that's lined up, we put it into here, and then basically we have a nice rod going up this whole body, and I'll never have to worry about any of this. So what I want to do first is, before we start pouring any resin and we set all this up, I am going to get some Aves. I'm going to shove some Aves in here, and what I'll do is I might throw a little bit of glue in here as well, line up my rod so it stays. And then once it's cured and it's ready to go, I'll pour a little bit of smooth on cast in here, probably about this much in the leg, to really lock this in place. And then from there, what I want to do is I want to attach this body and this leg together, seam it all up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up this area here. But what I'll do is I'll put a rod in here or something. We'll stick a rod in here for when I do this leg this way. And then what I'll do is I'll cut a hole up in here. I'll fill in these two holes here, and then what we'll do is we'll create a funnel and we'll pour resin down in here. So what'll happen is when this rod is here and this rod is in there, it'll lock these two into place, and this piece will be completely solid. I don't have to worry. If this leg is a little hollow, I'm not worried, because this leg isn't supporting anything. So it doesn't matter if this is hollow, but I still want to make this supported. So maybe what I might do too is just maybe I might, once this leg is supported, maybe I'll get this leg in here together, but leave a little bit of a hole. So when I fill this with resin, maybe the resin will come into here a little bit too and lock into place. I'll see how it goes. As far as the arms go, they are hollow, but they are really thick. I'm not going to fill these in with resin, because what I'll do is I'll put these with Aves, with a rod and Aves in here, and I'll attach these two arms and stuff later. Or actually, she has a t-shirt, and these are actually not supposed to be, yeah, so maybe what I'll do is I'll put rods in there with magnets. So I might actually make these magnetized, so we'll worry about that later. And as for the head, you know, you can see all the support and stuff and everything. Like I said, it was a really low-res file. What I might do for the head is the same thing. Oh, no, she has a neck. That, yeah, I don't know. I'll figure out with the neck, because one thing that happened is the cape doesn't really go on correctly, or in a way that I like. So I'm going to have to retweak this cape a little bit to work. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure this one out, because there is no... Oh, I could maybe just make a collar, give her a choker for fun. You know, maybe just give her a choker and make it magnetized. Like I said, it's just for myself. It's something I like, you know, and just mess with it. So what I'll do is next time I mix up some Aves, which will probably be later today, I'll film it. We'll get this leg locked into place and lined up. And then the next day I get a chance, we'll come back and we'll do the smooth cast. We'll fill it up. I'll show you how I fill it up, how everything locks into place, seam it up, and just give you the idea. I'm not going to go crazy with building this in a video or anything. It's kind of a side project for fun, because I figure once I get her all filled up and with the rod, I can make a generic base and build little clouds. I just want to make a little type of cloud thing, like she's floating in a cloud, something simple. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. Alright, so let's get her ready for getting this rod lined up correctly, and then once that's all done, next nice day we'll get out here and we'll start pouring in the resin. Alright, so what I did is have a little extra A's of working on some stuff. So there's a little bit of glue. It's hard to see. Underneath the red A's, there's glue there. So what I did was I held this here, and I kind of lined it up. I had to cut this, though. It was kind of, no matter how many times I bent it in different direction, it wasn't fitting correctly. But as long as there's enough chunk to get into, like, the, you know, up here into the waist, we're pretty good. So I put a little bit of glue in there, and I lined this up and held it, and it stayed in place when I hit it with the Insta-Set. So since I have a little A's right now, I still got to save this for something else. I put a little A's there, and I put a little A's here. I'm going to put a little tiny bit of A's over here, and I'm double checking too, just to make sure there's no gaps or anything, which there shouldn't be. This should be sealed up pretty well. So what'll happen is, next step, after this cures up, whenever I have a little extra A's and glue, I'm going to sort of lock this into place here, and then I'm going to seam up this leg. I'm going to get this leg all seamed up and everything. And then what I'll do is I'll probably put a rod in here or something, try to jumble this out. Or I might not even. I might just put tape here. You know, just put like a thing of like tape or even A's, I don't know, something over here. And then what'll happen is, like I said, I'll cut a bigger hole in the neck, and I'll plug up this hole here, and I'll plug up this hole here, and then when we go into the garage, we'll pour in resin, a nice good cup of resin, and the resin will come down into here, go down all the way into this leg. It'll lock this rod into place, it'll lock in there, and we'll have a nice good system of this setting up. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Normally, you know, you could fill up this section and you could fill up this section and then you can add these two together if you wanted to. But since I have this kind of bent end of thing, it's just going to be easier to steam up this leg and then pour it in one whole big shot. I gotta make sure I line up the leg correctly. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to put the leg here where it's supposed to go and do a mark with marker to do it. Because the idea is, what I'll probably do is I'll use some glue, I'll lock this in place, Dremel out a little bit, seam it up, and go from there. Trying to think. It also might be maybe what I'll do too is I'll pour in the resin first and then seam up the leg. But the idea is I got to seam up this leg first before I do this leg. Either way, even if you do this leg first and then this leg, it's still going to be hard because of the way this is kind of like touching and stuff. But I'll get it to work somehow. You know, we'll get it to work. So I'm going to let this sit, and then we'll come back and we'll start attaching this and going from there. Okay, so I got to explain all this over again. I was using my old camcorder for the garage, and sadly that camcorder seems to have burnt out completely. It will not work in anything anymore, so let's go through this again. So as you can see, what I did is I got my Supergirl all pretty much set up. It's just basically taped up just so I could pour it in and it goes down to where I need it to go. I have a tin over here because we're going to make a generic base, and so this way I can get her lined up to the base, and then whenever I have extra A's or freeform air or whatever, I can use it on the base and create a cloud, because I want to just do a simple little tiny base that's kind of like a cloud behind her feet, sort of like what they did with the Power Girl sideshow thing and a couple other fan art items out there. Kind of really simple. So I have Smoothcast 300. Hopefully I got this in the camera pretty well. This is B. What you do is you got to shake it up really well. I did that in the camera before. I don't want to do it just yet. I just want to give a rundown on how this is all working. So I have B here. I have A here. This is a special ink for resin. You can't use like ink or paint in your resin because it needs to be specifically formulated. So I put just a tiny drop in B and I mixed it up. So now we have A, we have B. A is in the yellow bottle, and it's kind of more of a watery liquid, whereas B is kind of thicker. And I use these Dixie cups because they have these lines on it, so it's easier to match up the lines. And then I'm going to pour these two into this cup, mix this together, and start pouring into those items. For the head, I just need to fill up the head. I don't need to fill up all the hair, so I just kind of put it upside down. This foot leg over here, we have it at this angle. So it'll go down, fill into the foot, come up, and then we have it like a little bit over here. We'll leave it alone, and then I can use that to cut into there. And then for the body, it's pretty much all the same thing. The body's all together. I had a little extra A's the other night, and I didn't really have to use it, so I rolled it up in little balls, and I threw it in the body, just throw it in there and fill it in. And that's pretty much it. So I figured I'd just give you guys a rundown on how it does with the first pour, just to give you guys an idea. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll do a fast one as I fill them all in and go from there. Now, one thing that Smooth On mentioned to me when I was at the Jersey Fest show years back before the lockdowns, they said you mix A and B together into a cup. You mix this into the cup. Now what happens is when you put A and B in there, sometimes B collects to the edge and sometimes A collects to the edge. And then what you want to do is you want to put it into another cup and mix it, and therefore all that mixture is nice and clean into this cup, and then you pour it into your mold. Now we're not making a mold and casting, so we don't have to take that extra step. We just need to take this and pour it into this here and set up this body and all that. So I got my gloves on, I got my glasses on, so I can see what I'm doing, plus to protect my eyes. Now you should be using mask and stuff, have a well ventilated area. My garage is pretty much has a lot of ventilation in it. I would open up the garage door, but it is a little bit moisture and raining out, and I really need to get this done. So I figured let me just do it now, get it over and done with early in the morning, and then from there we can do it whenever. But normally I would probably do this with the garage door open and stuff. I was doing a lot of heavy casting. Like when I need to make up a bigger base like this one, which I don't have the bigger containers, I ran out. That I'll do for a day where it's I can open up the garage door and stuff, but the smaller stuff in here is pretty fine. So it's really simple. You just be careful when you pour, be careful when you mix that you don't topple over your items. Make sure, like I said, you have protective gear. That's a lot of resin in that cup. That's okay. And then basically what I do is I go like 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. Kind of just I try to really mix up, get around the edges. Be careful though, because if you mix too much, you might spill it around the area. You should have like better mixing cups, but for smaller stuff like this, it's fine. It's not going to do anything. You know, I just want to mix it up pretty well. Now 300 cures faster. Usually it's like you have pot life, which means when I mix it together, you have about what, like 2-minute pot lifetime, and then from there it starts to cure up. Now the higher the numbers, like 305, 310 and up, it will start. You'll have a longer pot life and longer cure time. So the other thing too is what you want to do is you want to kind of sort of give a little bit of a little pinch there, and then basically, if you're good, pour it in and let it go slow. Let it fill up that leg. Now you want to hope that there's no like gaps. Like see how I just spilled all that over there? That's not the end of the world. That'll come off. So what we'll do is we'll put a towel here. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of fill this in a little bit better. Where am I at? Now the cup will start to get warm because that is the mixture. You know. Okay, so we're filling in. Boom. We're filling in pretty well. The next part is we go over to this one. It's already kind of thickening up a bit. And that is pretty good for that pour. And then what we do is go over here, wipe this down. Like I said, some of this stuff will come off very easy with the liquid, you know. Even if it cures up, sometimes it's sandable. But it's not going to destroy your items. But you want to be very careful, though, not to really over pour on something with a lot of detail and fill stuff up. Now I'm also looking around the edges. I'm not seeing any leaking on the bottom coming from the feet or anything, so that's good. So we're pretty good. All right. Now it's already starting to cure up in there. I can see it, but you guys can't see it. Now I'm not going to fill any more with the head because at least we got in there where I can actually Dremel into there, put a rod, shove a bunch of A's, and make a piece. Now for this body up here, once this stuff cures, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably grab some towels and I'm going to put some saran wrap around the body. Or something, so this way when I pour it in, if I'm a little bit messy, I'm not worried if it overspills. But yeah, it's already curing up pretty fast. I can see it in here. It's turning light gray in there. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to stop the camera. I'm going to get prepared for the next one. You know, I'll just need to fill into there. I might need about 2 cups into the body. Maybe 1.5 from what I filled. Maybe about a full cup might fill up the whole body. I really don't need to worry too much about filling up the whole entire thing, but we'll see. And then we just got to do this. So, yeah, let me get set up for the next pour. Okay, so it is about almost 7 o'clock tonight. Like I said, I did this earlier this morning. So this is all filled up. A little bit of resin kind of filled up over the edge here. I had to kind of like take it out when I filled it in because I was going to almost over pour. But I didn't get any leaks, so there was no gaps, so everything looks good there. You can see inside her head. I didn't fill up the whole entire head. It's probably like right about under the ear, but that's fine. That's good enough for this. We don't, like I said, we don't need to really fill it in all that much. And we didn't have any leaks as well, so that worked out pretty well. Over here you can see it filled into there. Now I did drip down some here, and it dripped up around there and at the bottom, but this stuff comes off pretty easy if you sometimes if you get a little bit of lucky. If I had primer on it, it would come off real easy, but if you sort of pry it off with a little sandpaper, it'll come right off. So I'm not really too worried about that. I'll clean that up anyway. So no leaks under there. Now, as far as the tins here, as you can see, when these tins, when you use these like cooking tins, you could just walk away from it and let it sit. You don't really have to, you know, like try to pry it out, because it's been about, what, I don't know, maybe 8-9 hours since I've done this. So what happens is the resin sort of shrinks up a bit once it really cools, and it just really comes like right out of the base, as you can see. So it just comes right out. So no problems whatsoever, and it's perfect little setup. The reason why I did a second one is because I was filling up something else while I was working, so I had a little extra resin, so I filled that in as well. So pop these out, and these are pretty much ready to go. So I'll be using this one as a sort of a starting point of a base. Get that going like right there on that, you know, like kind of fill in somewhere around there, and then start using extra materials to start building up a cloud. But yeah, that's pretty much how you fill up, you know, 3D print, especially Phrozen 4K. Like I said, if you do a little bit thick and you fill it in with the 2-part resin, you can fill in your item and you can make a nice solid piece. So, like I said, there's a metal rod going all the way up this leg up to in here, so I don't have to ever worry about this flopping over, bending, warping, or anything like that. That is pretty much ready to go. So I just got to start sanding it down, cleaning it up, and we're ready to go. So let me know what you guys think. Any questions, ask in the comments. I'll try and direct you to it as fast as possible, or any information. But a nice, good quality resin will really work wonders. Stay away from those cheap resins you get at like Michael's or AC Moore's or online. I believe a lot of this hobby and materials, you get what you pay for. So if you want to save like $5 or $10 here or there, you might run into more issues where if you buy the more quality stuff, it'll last longer, to be easier to work with. So there you go. So hit me up with any questions. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.